All right, you guys. We have our first professional skier on the podcast today. We have John Collinson. Thank you so much for joining us, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked.
I'm I'm excited for our listeners to learn a thing or two about, and myself, all things skiing nutrition, but certainly how maybe some of that's transferred into some other sports you do. But before we dive into all that, our listeners kind of know the breakdown, how they've already heard your bio. So we're going to go straight into your two truths and a lie. So what do you got for me?
All right, so two truths and a lie. We got my favorite ball sport is golf.
Okay.
I hate seafood,
Okay.
and I grew up LDS.
Oh, okay. I had to think about that one for a second. Okay. Um, I feel like I hope you don't hate seafood. But you're in Utah, right? So you're far away from like fresh seafood. So you might hate seafood. Did you grow up in Utah?
Yeah, born and
Maybe I
raised.
shouldn't ask you this. Like I'm trying to get hints. Um, okay. I feel like we've seen some stuff on the socials of you golfing. So I feel like you do like golf. I feel like that might be true. And the last two, the seafood and the LDS, I'm like torn. I'm gonna go. I hope that I don't know. I just hope you like seafood, but so I'm gonna say the grew up LDS is a lie, but don't tell me the answer. We will reveal it at the end for the listeners. So why don't you just take us back a ways? Obviously, we just found out you grew up in Utah, but what got you into skiing? And I mean, tell our listeners tell our listeners what type of skiing you do too, because it's pretty incredible.
Right, cool. Yeah, so we'll just do like a brief history.
Yeah.
Born and raised here in Utah at Snowbird Ski Resort. So my
Okay.
dad worked for the mountain, like as a ski patrol and then snow safety. So
Hmm.
super involved with the resort itself. And so that was just sort of like living up at the ski hill in the employee housing. It was like the the ski resort was our front yard, like
Yeah.
looking out the window is just snowbirds. So
That's
it's kind of
awesome.
natural to get on skis pretty young.
Yeah.
And then my mom had a elementary ed like schooling. So
Hmm.
she actually homeschooled my sister, me, and a couple other kids up the
Wow.
canyon. So like kind of our whole life just revolved around being up at Snowbird, like around the ski area. And then in the summer, we'd live out of a van and travel around the West,
Wow.
climbing and camping and backpacking all over the Western US. So it's kind of like the mountains were always home in the
Yeah.
playground, winter, summer, all the time. And then that progressed, as I got older. My sister got more successful at ski racing.
Mm.
I got less successful at ski racing. But luckily at that time, I was in the perfect era. So I started like the free riding, which is what
Mm-hmm.
I do today.
Hmm.
And so that type of skiing, I like to say like what I do professionally is basically anything outside of a ski resort boundary. So we typically call that backcountry skiing. And I'll use that, human powered, whether I'm walking up the mountain myself, if we use snowmobiles, snowcats, helicopters, kind of anything goes to get us
Yeah.
up to the top of these mountains.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's no Olympics for me, no major competitions
Mm.
like X Games or things like that. Not my sport. I'm more
Is that because they don't have that as a sport?
totally, yeah. So
Yeah.
like it's not in the Olympics,
Hmm.
but there could be hope. I don't know. Watching the
Yeah.
Summer Olympics this year, they had the surfing in Tahiti.
Yes.
So I was like, if they have the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake, they could have
Hmm.
big mountain contest in Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of our athletes who went to the Olympics
Oh,
for
nice.
surfing. Yeah. So yeah, very fun to watch that for sure. So I mean, if the listeners don't follow John's Instagram, you should definitely go follow it because there's some really incredible footage on there of some of your ski trips and yeah, some of the goodness, like the colossal mountains you're skiing down, which is, I mean, how that to me is terrifying. How did you get over that? I guess when you start so small, it's just normal and then it progresses and it's
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was
is it
kind of just the the snowball,
Yeah.
like kind of like that exposure. I've just been, and also the combination of winter and summer. So the
Hmm.
fact that not only was I comfortable skiing the mountain in the winter, ever since I was little, I've been comfortable climbing and being in kind of exposed, scary terrain in the
Hmm.
summer as well. So that just gave me a really good skill set. So then once I became more of a professional skier, I was able to do a lot of different aspects of skiing because there's like just backcountry skiing, slope style, freestyle,
Hmm.
like there's all these different little aspects. And I was able to sort of plug myself into different trips, ski mountaineering.
Mm.
So it gave me a lot more opportunity basically from
Hmm.
a young age.
Cool.
Versus a lot of the guys you'll see, they'll be like really strong free riders and they
Mm-hmm.
have to learn mountaineering skills as they get older. I
Mm.
sort of had this beautiful gift from my parents that I had a lot of these mountain skills already and was able to utilize them from a young age.
That's great. So, what does a day, I mean, do you guys have enough snow on the ground where you are to get out and ski right now, right?
Yep.
It's full
Yeah.
on ski season for you.
It's ski
Um,
season. Yeah.
awesome. So, what does a day in the life of John look like right now in ski season?
Yeah. So this season looks a little different,
Mm.
actually. So recently I started personal training.
Hmm.
Well, so I've been working with some clients one on one. So
Nice.
that's been a new thing for this winter, which has been
Hmm.
cool because typically as a pro athlete, I don't have much of a schedule. So it's been kind of cool to be like, all right, these days, I'm in the clinic working with clients, and then I know the hours I can get out to do activities.
Nice.
So I'd say a typical day is like wake up, hopefully work with a client or two, and
Hmm.
then get up to the ski hill for a few hours, come back down, and then either get out with my dog for a run or a hike, or go to the gym and do a session in the gym.
Nice.
Kind of, yeah, basic schedule.
Yeah. So when you're out on the slopes, are we talking like, are we using the chairlift or are we
This
hiking up a
season,
mountain?
yeah, so this season I've been at the resort a lot, so
Okay.
using the chairlift a lot.
Yeah.
Um, And then as the season progresses, and the snow fills in and the backcountry becomes safer,
Mm,
hopefully, I'll be
mm.
spending more time on my feet hiking out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does what now we have to talk about nutrition. So
Yeah,
what
totally.
does when you're going into like the backcountry situation where you're away from the lodge or you maybe like of the vehicle where your snacks might be or whatever, what are you what does your breakfast look like before you head out? And then what kind of things are you bringing on you?
Yeah. Good questions. So, and I will say, I'm just gonna put this out, like historically, as far as I'm concerned, like nutrition and free skiing are not like
Aligned?
aligned. Like the cool thing to do
Yeah.
usually is like you have this big crazy day skiing, you go to the
Hmm.
bar,
Hmm.
many beers as humanly possible,
Yep.
wake up the next day and do it again. So, um, so I had a lot of that in my early years
Hmm.
skiing, and it wasn't really until the injuries
Mm.
where I took kind of everything more seriously.
Yeah.
And then via cycling and trail running, I learned a lot about nutrition and fueling for like long days out there.
Mm.
So I was just precursing that because I kind of had no nutritional knowledge prior to
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it's been a steep learning curve bringing it to skiing.
Hmm.
Which I mean, I probably have a bunch of questions for you about this.
You
But
can fire away.
ever since I was little, like traveling in the mountains,
Hmm.
it was I don't know if I built it up since I was a kid, but I sort of just had this tolerance where I could
Hmm.
go all day
Yeah.
without eating anything.
Hmm.
And then when I would bonk, it would be like the gnarliest bonk of all time, and I couldn't recover.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was like just years and years of that, but for a lot of my professional career, I would be able to go out for 8 to 10 hours and like barely eat anything
Mm.
backcountry, and
Hmm.
then just like hammer a huge dinner and a huge breakfast. And that was
Yeah.
sort of my plan.
Hmm.
But now to hopefully maybe answer your question, I do take it much more structured. kind of drawing from that cycling and running knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's typically like still a really large breakfast with a lot of protein. I love
Mm-hmm.
eggs and they just keep me fairly satiated, and I feel
Yeah.
good eating them. And then on the trail, it's usually kind of, just like like gels,
Mm-hmm.
cubes, fruit snacks, kind of like the typical, just like quick
Yeah.
carbs type of
Yeah.
thing. And then I try and keep some stuff in my truck for afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times I'll sort of like get behind when I'm on the skin track or skiing, and
Mm-hmm.
then I try and play catch up
Yeah.
later. Um, and it's like I've tried and tried to do better, but on a day when we're working and filming, a lot of times it's just like go, go, go. And for whatever
Yeah.
reason, I don't take the 5 seconds to like eat
Yeah.
right. And so that's kind of a constant work in progress, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you notice a difference in how you felt or how you performed when you started changing your nutrition?
Yes, for sure. And I would say that it's been like a long-term
Mm-hmm.
change where it's taken me a really long time to like I would say eat enough to
Mm-hmm.
fuel my goals. And then once I started eating enough, which was a huge challenge, I just sort of had more energy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it
Yeah.
also was sort of stimulating my appetite too, so that I would get hungry. Like
Yep.
previously, I just like wouldn't get hungry, so I wouldn't eat. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I started eating enough, it was like, okay, I get hungry, I need to get something in, just
Yeah.
like a bite or two or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And with the foods you take when you're out there, do you ever notice issues with the cold and the food? Like, are they hard to eat? Are they getting frozen? Stuff like that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like for years, it would be like, kind of any bar you
Yeah.
would get classically, it was like a power bar or Cliff Bar. And it was
Yeah.
like jaw
Break
breaking,
your teeth off.
break your teeth
Yeah.
off. And I
Yeah.
would say like it's gotten quite a bit better.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're softer. And then now with the addition of all the different like gels and gummies
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff, that's
Yeah.
like kind of a go-to.
Yeah.
And then trail mix, like classic
Yeah.
trail mix just for like some fats in the nuts.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and then I also like I'm a sick sucker for salty food, so like chips and beef jerky
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
always a go-to.
That's nice. Awesome. So it sounds like you have a good variety. And with the type of efforts you're doing when you're out there, you have a Garmin, right? I think I saw you
Mhm.
posted something.
Yeah,
Um, what is your heart rate zones like getting into, or do you monitor that?
yeah,
Like,
I do,
yeah.
but sort of loosely.
Yeah.
I would say like I've done some testing to figure out my different heart rate zones,
Hmm.
but it's been a couple of years since I've retested, so I'm
Hmm.
going off kind of old numbers, and I actually have like a really high heart rate. So
Mm.
my like lactate threshold is like 176
Okay.
and my A1 is like 149
Hmm.
or so. So yeah, so kind of a high heart rate and but that was like really helpful when I learned that because it was like, okay, as long as I keep my heart rate below 172, I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of go all day. And then
Yeah.
especially if I'm like throwing a couple things down the hatch, it's like
Yeah.
so that was like a really helpful tool is learning my heart rate
Hmm.
and at what level I could push.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
been really cool because some days, you just start going and then it's like, holy shit, smokes. I'm like 190, like I'm redlining right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta pump the brakes if I want to be able to perform both
Right.
all day or like have like a really aggressive ski line that you want strong legs for.
Yeah. 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 It's a whole different ball game. And so that makes me want to talk about your knees and
Yeah.
surgeries.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share with our listeners kind of I know was a series of a couple of years, or was it back-to-back years or something? Same knee got
Yeah,
blown
all
out?
of it. Yeah. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, so like blowing the knees kind of a skier's worst nightmare for
Yeah.
sure. And you never want it to happen. But in the spring of 2018, I blew my ACL on my
Oh,
right leg and it like clean tear, nothing else was damaged, like pretty much as straightforward as it gets.
okay.
Got that repaired and then, like really, really focused on the rehab, put every ounce of effort into coming back strong.
Hmm.
And I was working with Red Bull at the time, so I was able to utilize their athlete performance center out in
Nice.
LA, which was
Hmm.
super cool. So that was just like mind blowing in
Hmm.
itself. And then I got back on snow, felt super good, had a couple months skiing, and then was up on a film trip in Canada and re-ruptured that
Oh,
ACL. So it was like
yeah.
10 months out, like kind of
Oh,
the classic
yeah.
number, basically. I
Oh,
think I was a little too much too soon scenario.
yeah. Hmm.
So that was really devastating. And that was in like February.
Mm.
Then I had to have a bone graft,
Oh gosh.
let that heal before they could do the ACL repair. So I didn't get that repaired till like June.
Mm.
It was just kind of this weird timeline. And then as I was getting ready to get back on snow, COVID happened. It was like I got back on snow and but it was just kind of an incomplete season because
Yeah.
the pandemic locked everything down,
Right.
which, maybe was like a blessing for me. It kind of forced me to chill,
Mm.
was able to train and like
Hmm.
just keep getting stronger. Then the next winter, 2021,
Hmm.
had a really great year, like skied a bunch, got back up to Alaska, which Alaska for a skier is like the best, it's the
Yeah.
proving ground sort of. So
Mm.
to have like a successful film trip up there after two knee surgeries was really great.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, flew straight down to this contest in Tahoe and had a really nasty crash and
Mm.
tore my patellar tendon, ACL, PCL, MCL, meniscus
Eee.
on my left leg. So it was just kind of like
Yeah.
shot and
Darn.
super darn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
Mm.
bummer. So, and that took multiple surgeries to
Yeah.
fix that. So I lost a full season. Um, yeah, it was like 600 days exactly, I think,
Oh,
between when I
wow.
got hurt and when I skied again.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So having had all these experiences with surgeries and injury,
Yeah.
have you adjusted your nutrition following the injury or surgery to help kind of speed up the healing process or manage inflammation, that kind of stuff?
Yep. So immediately, like after the very first injury, I was like on the internet, like inflammatory foods. What should I eat after surgery? That kind of thing.
Yep.
So immediately, and I would say like overall through my life, my diet's been pretty good.
Hmm.
Like my mom would always we were an ingredient household. It
Yeah.
was like she'd always cook super good food. We never had too
Nice.
much processed stuff around. So kind of my whole life has been set up pretty well to eat
Hmm.
whole foods.
Yeah.
And so I just continued that into surgery or after surgery. And I'd say the only major change was introduced collagen. So I
Hmm.
started like taking collagen every day. Um, and it wasn't until actually the last knee injury, the
Hmm.
really bad one, that I really focused and was like, oh, I need to be eating more protein to
Hmm.
support, like
Hmm.
the rehab process plus like the time I'm doing in the gym. So it kind
Yeah.
of took me a while to catch on to the protein game
Hmm.
and understand how much effort that can be.
Hmm.
Eat enough protein throughout the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So and yeah, and so yeah, so it was kind of eye-opening to get to that point when I'd already spent a bunch of years like out at Red Bull working out
Mm.
super hard, like training hours and hours a day. But
Yeah.
I don't think I was eating enough through that whole process. Like I was strong and like
Hmm.
the rehab went well, but could have been even better if I ate more. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever break any bones?
I have as a kid, like
Yeah.
I've broken a lot of bones, but recent history, no.
Wow. And have you ever had your bone density tested?
I have not, no.
I feel like it's probably got to be pretty solid if like you're taking those impacts and then nothing's happening to the bone, but like a lot of
The
times
soft tissue.
yeah, if your bone is so strong, like this happens sometimes with athletes where the bone is so strong, but then the weak point is like the attachment of the tendon to the bone. So like it can rip off the bone or the bone is so strong holding it that the tendons take the brunt, which at the end of the day, that's probably better than bone because bone takes longer to heal from what I understand. But
Or
yeah.
well, I for sure wished I would have just like broken my leg or
Yeah. Oh
something.
God.
because bone, if it's like just a clean break, put it in a
Yeah.
cast, whatever, 6 weeks. But like a
Yeah.
soft tissue, like an ACL is like minimum 8 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, yeah, you have to do the reconstructive and
Yeah. So it
yeah.
was kind of wild. Like I remember after my really bad knee injury, and it was kind of just like this bleak gray future
Mm.
where I was like, I don't know how long, no one had an answer on like how long the
Yeah.
recovery would be, what it would look like.
Hmm.
And I remember a friend of mine, a mountain biker, had a nasty crash, like
Mm.
broken spine, broken pelvis, broken femur,
Oh,
like
yeah.
life-threatening kind of.
Yeah.
And he was on his bike like 2 months or 3 months later.
Wow.
Like kind of just like this incredible recovery
Yeah.
and bones just healing. And it was
Yeah.
like, and at that point, I still wasn't even
Oh,
moving around much. So it's kind
yeah.
of crazy, like the
Yeah.
difference it can make
Yep. Yeah.
soft tissue versus
Wow.
bone. And
Yeah.
it's hard to say like, oh, I wish it would have been this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
I would like to
Um,
know my bone density though, now that you
yeah.
bring that up.
Yeah, you should get it. Yeah, ask your, well, there's a couple different ways to do it. I'm sure you probably have maybe looked into it, but yeah, you can do like the DEXA scans. I don't know if you have some of
Mhm.
those. They'll do like a full body if it's a body composition facility that's like open to the public. And then you could get like a legit bone density scan if your physician gives you a prescription to get one done, where
Oh,
they do like the 3 points. They'll look at like I think like your lower spine, a portion of your femur, and then maybe your hip. I think there's like 3 points in your body that they'll specifically look at for bone
okay.
density. So like if you do a DEXA body composition scan, it usually reads your bone density higher than what it would be if you did it with your doctor because it's looking at like your skull and
Right.
everything.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that would be you should go get one
Cool.
done and
Yeah.
see. I
Yeah, I'm
mean, because
interested.
if you get like you're doing a lot of impact, right? And that's like one of the
Mhm.
things that drives the your bones to be strong because they need to
Yeah,
support that
totally.
impact. So I know you threw out the trail running, some cycling stuff. And actually one of our listener questions was, you've done Mammoth Tough. Do you think you'll lace up some trail runners and toe the line at Mammoth Trail Fest?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so I've kind of loved, and I always have like loved a bit of the Sufferfest,
Hmm.
like endurance
Yeah.
things. And it used to be quite a bit more running.
Hmm.
So like I've signed up and not finished quite a few like 50Ks or 50 milers.
Wow.
Just I'd love to sign up and then would just go out so hard and
Yeah.
completely blow up. No strategy,
Mm.
no nutrition advice. Like I was just
Yeah.
going for it.
Yeah.
And then I got into cycling through injury,
Hmm.
fell in love, like such a cool community, got like
Yeah.
brought into the Pinarello family and they've just taught me a ton.
Nice.
Maybe not feel like I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all, and so
Yeah.
learned a ton. And so to the point of like cycling versus running, I do love running, but it's pretty much under 20K.
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
say. I haven't run a ton of
Yeah.
longer distances since my last injury.
Hmm.
So I'm unsure on how I would feel like
Yeah.
in a super long race
Hmm.
versus on the bike. It's like quite a bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use running and cycling as kind of like an off-season way to keep like endurance and like stamina up for long days up on the mountain?
Yes and no. It's like I find it's just such a nice way
Hmm.
to be outside and to like have
Hmm.
a rhythm. A lot of times I'm not on any sort of strict training regimen with the
Hmm.
cycling or running. It's more just like um, kind of like meditative for me, like
Yeah.
the rhythm of being on a bike
Yeah.
is such a good time for me to just like mull through my thoughts,
Hmm.
be outside, get all those good things in.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it translates well to once the snow falls, you're like, oh, I feel fairly fit.
Yeah. That's great. And you do, is it gravel and road and mountain?
Yeah. But I've only ever like entered races or rode in races for gravel.
Okay. And that's the
Yeah.
Pinarello
That's the
gravel. Yeah.
Pinarello squad.
Nice.
Yeah.
What gravel race did you do?
The first one I did was Unbound.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, and a
That wasn't
couple
the
years
really muddy
ago.
year, was it?
Not, I don't, it wasn't the crazy, crazy muddy year, but
Okay.
the one before. Like we had a good like mile or 2 miles of hike a bike
Oh gosh.
and it
Yeah.
was raining. Like
Yeah.
it was much more of a suffer fest than I thought. I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll be out in the plains. Like it's
Yeah.
flat. I'll just be out on a cool bike ride. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Whoops.
this is a beat down. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening. And
Yeah.
then the next year I did the last best ride
Yeah.
Montana, and that was
Yep.
like so incredible, such a
Yeah.
fun event, such a fun. It was like a bike ride, it was like
Yeah.
the cool climb, descent, another big
Mhm.
climb, descent, and that was it. And you're in mountains and beautiful country, so I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that.
That's awesome. So
And
how did you feel with fueling on those two events?
yeah, so that was what was my I was the most proud of probably.
Nice.
Because it was like, all right, came up with the plan, stuck to it, and then, had juice. So both of those races crossed the finish line with like so much in the tank
Nice.
that I was like, this is awesome. Like I can be out for
Yeah.
however many hours as long as I'm keeping it up. It's like I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like maybe I should try pushing harder, or have more strategy to be faster in the next races.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, basically I did it pretty simple. It was like tried to get 80, 90 plus grams of carbs per
Awesome.
hour. And like having liquid
Mm-hmm.
carbs was super helpful. So not
Yeah.
needing to just eat. Um, and then it was just like a ton of gummies. That's kind of
Yeah.
my go-to. Like
Yeah.
I have a hard time with the waffles or anything
Mm.
denser.
Mm-hmm.
It's me too long to chew, and I'm like,
Yeah.
so I just love like quick, easy, fruity little bites.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, and then just like water and the liquid carbs were nice.
Nice. When you say gummies, are we talking like Haribo gummies? Or are we talking like Cliff Block Chews
Like Cliff
or
Block chews,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the Cliff Block chews, and then my go-to like bad boy snack is like the Nerds clusters.
Oh, okay. That's a good
That's
one.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, huge fan of those things.
Pure sugar. Yeah. That's I
Just,
haven't heard many endurance athletes do the nerd clusters. That's a good one. It's a lot of like Sour Patch Kids and like sour gummy worms and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So,
totally. I
yeah.
like the Sour Patch Kids too.
Yeah.
It's just like a little different texture with the nerds on there.
Yeah. Get a crunch in there with it. That's
Yeah.
great. That's
And
awesome.
that was another reason I've like loved the cycling too, is I find it so much easier
Hmm.
keep nutrition in. Like
Yeah.
on runs, it's just like the jostling, the this,
Yeah.
and it's like I find it super hard. Like I'd rather just not eat and then I
Yeah.
run out of juice in
Yep.
an hour and a half. Versus
Yeah.
like it's so much easier, just like, all right, spend 15 minutes, throw something
Hmm.
down.
Yeah. Did you carb load for Unbound or the last best ride?
Not a ton, not like
Yeah.
super strategically.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I kind of just, was watching what everyone else, because we were in a team house.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of watching what everyone else was doing and copied.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Like, all
Learn
right, okay,
from the
big
best.
rice bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. And then what about hydration? Like how does that differ when you're talking about like a big mountain ski situation versus getting on the bike or trail running?
Yeah. I'd say vastly different
Yeah.
for sure, which it shouldn't be probably, but when I'm like going out on the bike
Hmm.
or running, the like the reason I'm doing it is for like fitness and performance.
Hmm.
And so that means it's like whatever it takes to meet that goal, however much water I need to carry, whatever
Hmm.
food I need to eat, I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
Versus with skiing, the main goal typically is like getting a good shot. So
Hmm.
finding good terrain. So I mean, there's just like so many other aspects to
Yeah.
skiing beyond just like performing well on the skin track. And
Hmm.
often the nutrition and hydration completely get left in the
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
So like for instance, on the bike, I and I've started to sweat a lot more the
Mm.
past couple years. So I'm
Hmm.
like have had to up my hydration. So like
Yeah.
on the bike, I'm like 2 full bottles, 2 liters on my back with another squeezy bottle, like hydration guy.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
on the ski hill, I have like a 500 mil
Mm-hmm.
Nalgene that I carry, and that's
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Do you ever eat snow for for hydration?
I'll put in, that'll be my trick, because like I drink my bottle
Okay.
down
Yeah.
and then I put snow in there,
There you go.
put it in my jacket so it melts. So I try and, because the
Yeah.
eating snow, I've heard, it's like the energy you burn to melt the snow
Oh,
negates the hydration property.
interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
Huh.
typically you can like kind of get dehydrated if you just keep eating
Yeah.
snow.
That is fascinating. Have you ever, out of curiosity, like sweat tested a ski day session?
Mm-mm.
That would be
No.
really interesting to
Yeah.
see because you can weigh yourself like right before you go do your
Uh-huh.
session, and then you can weigh yourself right when you get home, and then if you like monitor how many fluid ounces you consume during to see because it'd be interesting like and
Right.
you have gear to see what the net
Yeah.
loss is.
Totally. I'm gonna
Um,
write this down right now.
Send me your numbers and we'll put them in our spreadsheet for you,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what percent
Yeah.
dehydrated you are and what you need to replace. Um, but yeah, that would be an interesting one. I mean, we've done that like we've had like surf clients, and they're obviously not carrying a bottle out in the ocean.
Right.
So we'll weigh before and after. And it's like, I mean, granted, they're in warm climates and they're obviously sweating in the ocean and stuff. But you don't realize it as much, certainly when you're in water. And then when you're up in the mountains, I mean, it's so dry. Usually the water evaporates off you, or the sweat evaporates off you so fast a lot of times that you might not even realize how much you're sweating. So,
Totally.
yeah.
And how much when you're breathing
Yep.
too,
Yeah.
like, which I never had realized until starting to do trips where we're like camping out in the
Mm,
winter, and then you wake up and it's like the frost on the inside of your tent can be so thick and it's just
yeah.
like
Yep.
your breath. And so it's like,
Yeah.
dang, you breathe
Yeah.
out so much
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, it is wild. Do you do electrolytes?
Yep. Yep.
What's
So
your
I work with
go-to?
Gnarly
Oh,
Nutrition.
cool. Yeah.
So I've been using their electrolytes
Nice.
and
Yeah.
stuff for the
Awesome.
past, yeah, like year.
hmm they also do like a high carb drink mix too, right?
Yep, yep, the
Yeah.
Fuel
hmm
2.0. So I've been
Nice.
using that too.
hmm
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, the electrolytes is a big piece of the puzzle. Certainly when you're out there and you're losing some fluids. So we talked about hydration. We talked about fueling during. What does your recovery look like either after a bike ride or trail run or a ski day? Like what is that first thing you're putting in your body?
Pretty much will be a protein shake
Okay.
right away. That's like my
Yeah.
go-to.
hmm
And usually after like a cycling or skiing or running or something, it'll just be like, I mean, either water or almond milk,
hmm
protein shake, and creatine.
Yeah.
And then I try is the key word. Just keep up like 16 ounces of water every hour
Nice.
after, as well as some sort of carby
Yeah.
snack, like a bowl of fruit, bowl of
hmm
popcorn, whatever, um, a few times before I go to bed.
Yeah. Nice. That's great. Yeah, the 16 ounces every hour after, that's a little rehydration trick too. So when you weigh yourself, if you find out, well, the trick is actually for every pound lost, you want to consume like 24 to 32 ounces for every pound lost. If
Oh,
you
wow.
weigh, yeah. So
Okay.
16 ounces is equivalent to a pound, but usually when you're rehydrating, you want to go actually like 1.5 to 2 times that because your kidneys are going to get a load from the fluids and basically diurese some of it out.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good one. The 16 ounces I mean, that'll certainly help keep the hydration coming in. I like that. And then what's the protein powder brand you go to? Is that Gnarly or do you have another?
Gnarly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And is it whey or whey based?
Way. I do
Okay.
both. They have a vegan one that's pretty
hmm
yummy as well.
Awesome.
So I mix it up between the
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, I want to make sure I'm mindful of your time and we do some of our listener questions. So we had a listener question on post-surgery recovery nutrition, which I think we covered a good amount of that. And then we have one here that says, do you or have you used any peptides to recover from injuries such as BPC 157? That's a popular peptide that's people are talking about these days.
Quite popular. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked into it
Mhm.
pretty heavily in my
Yeah.
last injury. But short answer is no. I haven't done anything besides like get surgery.
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of like the healing process, I've only gone to like physical therapy, the only supplements I've taken are like creatine and collagen. Um, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So, but I did look into it, and I was interested for
Yeah.
sure because especially because I was so devastated and like, man, I want to do anything I can, but
Yeah.
it was, it just like felt funny. There wasn't a good, like any healthcare provider I asked about
Mm.
peptides was, it was kind of this gray area.
Yeah.
And so people I trusted, they were like, well, we can't really
Mm-hmm.
say one thing or another. And then so I was just kind of basing off of online research. And then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, we could send you, the powder with the water and you mix it and weigh it and
Yeah.
inject yourself. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just don't think I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. Okay, this one says, have you ever considered becoming vegetarian or plant-based?
I haven't considered like fully
Hmm.
just like, yeah, cold
Yeah.
turkeying. But I have tried to be more mindful about like using other protein
Mm.
sources,
Hmm.
outside of just like animal products.
Hmm.
But yeah, kind of short answer is no, I haven't thought about just
And
doing it.
yeah, and it sounds like you, I mean, you get probably loads of veggies and real food, like you're saying, too, on the day to day in your diet. You get a lot of plant-based stuff
A
in.
lot of plant-based stuff, but I'd say
Yeah.
like my favorite foods honestly are meat products.
Yeah.
So I would have a really, really hard
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The next one says, what nutrition trend do you trust and what do you want to see go away?
That's a good one. I would say hopefully it's a trend, but I've been seeing more and more online of eating more protein
Mm-hmm.
overall.
Hmm.
And I would say I would trust that trend. Um, and honestly, there's quite a few I'd like to see go away, but it, I don't know. There's like just so many kind of trendy diets that I don't necessarily agree with,
Hmm.
but it's hard to say because everyone's body is different.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a few probably that seem, like keto, for example. I know quite a few people that try and be keto, but I think it's
Mm.
actually like really quite hard to
Yeah.
truly be keto. But
Hmm.
it feels like there's like a lot of people that sort of fall maybe into the trap of
Yeah.
believing in it, but not understanding like the reality of what it would take.
Yeah. Yep. Or yeah, I've had clients do keto and they're doing keto on paper, but it's, butter and cheese and these things that when we do their lab work, like their cholesterol's through the roof. So
Right.
there's that side of keto too. But if you could
Right.
do it with like avocados and olive oil and walnuts and like these other kind of maybe lower saturated. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And fasting, intermittent fasting and
Fasting.
all that stuff too
Yeah.
is a big one that I don't know. I from for an athlete lens, I don't think it's maybe super wise, but
Yeah.
um
Totally. Or
we'll
another
see.
one that seems super trendy is like carnivore.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
And it's like
gosh.
I do enjoy my animal
Yeah.
products, but like that some of that stuff seems pretty over the top,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty extreme. I mean, if
pretty
you're
extreme.
eliminating like so many food groups,
So many
yeah.
food groups.
It's wild. I'd be curious what I forget what his name is, the Liver King or whatever, what his
Yeah.
gut microbiome is like, because it
Yeah,
just like
totally.
it's got to be odd.
Yeah.
Okay, we got another one. It says, any advice on, and they put air quotes, keeping it tight.
Um, I don't know. I
Yeah.
keeping it tight.
It
It's
sounds like you're a hard gainer. Would you
hard
agree?
gainer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
M-
So I would say, yeah, like my whole life I struggled more with being able to eat enough to meet the like
yeah.
goals that I want to.
Hmm.
Which yeah, is just typically not the problem most people have.
Yeah.
But again, it's like I think about this all the time. It's like I've been active in a somewhat extreme way since I was like 4. Like
Yeah.
8+ hour days in the mountains since I was 4.
Hmm.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, just like historically as a child,
Hmm.
teenager, young adult, like a lot of activity. And then, my whole professional career has been being an athlete. So
Yeah.
being active and outside and training has been, a passion and a job. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of factors that lead into it that it's just, um, there's no like, oh yeah, I just do this. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like, I don't know, it's been kind of a whole lifelong
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. But then when you talk about like for the listeners to remind them is like when you were talking about what your day is like, you're training somebody, you're going and you're skiing, then you're going for a run with your dog, then you're going to the gym. It's like you're moving, moving, moving. You're not sitting behind a desk all
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
So
getting a
yeah,
lot of movement.
a lot of movement. And so that's what, yeah, there's like a specific movement, like that you get from exercise, the amount of calories you burn in a session, but it's like, yeah, most of the hours in the day I'm up and
Yeah.
doing stuff. And so that's like the key takeaway. Anytime anyone asks me about that stuff, it's like,
Hmm.
you could follow my exact diet, do my exact workouts, but our day-to-day life is going to look a lot differently. And then that's going to,
Yeah.
yeah, play a big role.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Okay, kind of similar on the keeping it tight question. They said, what's the magic number of body fat percentage, BMI, etc., for all around athleticism?
Whoa, that's tough. That'd be a hard one to pin down.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say I was doing quite a lot of, yeah, like body composition testing when I was out at Red Bull, and I
Mm-hmm.
was always under 10%.
Okay.
Like I
What
would
kind of
be,
machine was it?
it was just the in-body
Okay. Yep.
ones,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like I would do it every day for months. So we were getting
Mm-hmm.
like a decent reading,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and it was like always under 10%.
Yeah.
Felt okay, or like I didn't, that's how I always was
Mm-hmm.
that sort of lean.
Yeah.
Um, but I think since then, I haven't tested myself for body composition, so I'm not sure what I'm at now. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm probably above 10. I'm probably like 12, 13 or
Mm-hmm.
something in that range now. And I feel way better. Like just more
Yeah.
energy. I don't get as cold as quickly. Just kind
Mm.
of across the board, I feel much better.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm also like I'm able to, yeah, feel stronger in the gym, like weightlifting wise.
Yeah.
For a long time, I just had struggled like increasing numbers in weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I think that there's a lot to be said for that too. I think there is a sweet spot where there's not like, oh, all men should be sub whatever or in this range. I certainly see that with athletes as well. It's like they could get below a certain body fat percentage and their knees are hurting more and like their testosterone's dropping and and then we bring it up a little bit and the power's back and their hormones are back in a good place and we're seeing muscle
Right,
gain and all that stuff. So yeah,
right.
but pay attention
That's
to how you feel for sure.
that's
Um,
that's the main one for me. It's like more on how I feel, but of course
mhm.
that's like coming from me where I'm a hard gainer, and it's you know
Yeah.
aesthetically or weight wise, that's like usually not a concern. It's always about how I feel, so it's easy for me to say
Hmm.
that, versus someone who's like in it for weight loss
Right.
is going to have much different emotions around that.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Okay, next question. What's your favorite resort to ski at?
Snowbird Alta. Yeah. So there's like my home hills in Utah here,
Yeah.
Snowbird and Alta, but other like either just as fun or notables are like Jackson Hole,
Mm-hmm.
Revelstoke, Whistler Blackcomb. Um, yeah, those are probably the my fave.
Nice. Okay, we asked you the Trail Fest situation. We talked, this one says, what's your favorite pocket snack? I think maybe we covered a bit of those, like the gummies and the chews and stuff.
Gummies and chews, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
quick carb.
then what's your favorite or most memorable? This might be a long story, but you tell me if we want to use this one. What's been your favorite or most memorable big mountain adventure?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say probably like one of the cooler experiences I've had was getting to go to Greenland.
Mm,
Actually been there twice,
wow.
had this super memorable adventure day getting into Greenland. Because we flew the whole team in. So we flew in from Iceland
Oh, wow.
and then on a like normal plane, and then we took a boat up the coast of Greenland to this little like fishing village. Got on a different boat that was more of like an icebreaker
Whoa.
type scenario and took that into this, up the coast even more and into this bay that was close to the skiing we wanted. But then
Mm.
the ice got so thick, we had dog sleds on the boat. So we unloaded the dog sleds
Oh my
onto the
gosh.
ice, put all our gear on the dog sleds, and then like dog sledded.
Wow.
I don't know if that's the right verb, but did that across the ice. And it was just, and it got pretty hectic. Like it
Yeah.
got super warm. So the dogs and the sleds were like punching through the ice.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we were punching through the ice, and then it was warming up. So there's like avalanches coming down on the mountains, and then the snow was like coming out onto the sea ice. And so
Whoa.
I was like, I don't know if it was a reality, but like I was horrified the snow would come across and then like break up the ice with all the weight. I
Oh
don't know if it
my.
would actually would have happened or not, and it didn't. But it was just kind of spooky, like
Mm-hmm.
like trying to pull dogs and sleds out of the
Yeah.
water,
Oh,
avalanches coming down. You're like, oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And we got to the shoreline, and then we had like a 2 mile ski tour to this cabin, this hut, climber's
Wow.
hut we were gonna stay at. And there were like fresh polar bear tracks going up to
Oh
the
my
thing. And so we're
gosh.
like, oh my gosh, is there a polar bear
Yeah.
at the hut? And so we kind of followed it, and there was no polar bear, like we never saw it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a moot point, but
Wow.
it was just this like high adrenaline day of like
Yeah.
just keep going, like one step, one foot in front of the other.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so with a lot of your trips, you're way out there too from when we think about like emergency services
Yes.
too, right? So you guys
Yeah.
are you guys all you have must have tr some training for sure.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
is fairly common with the crews we're with to do.
Hmm.
Not some people much more extensively, but on
Hmm.
a base level, everyone's fairly well trained in terms of
Hmm.
like basic medical, wilderness medical, avalanche rescue,
Nice.
that type of thing. So
Yeah.
usually we have like a fairly solid crew. Um,
Gosh. Wow. Yeah. That's wild. That is a crazy story.
it was pretty wild day for sure.
Gosh. Is that one on your YouTube channel?
No, it
No.
was. I just looked for it the other
Yeah.
day because I told this story recently, and then I went
Yeah.
to go look for that film because we made
Yeah.
like super cool film out of it, and it wasn't up anymore.
Oh,
I
shoot.
know. I don't know why, but
Huh. Huh. Okay. Well, we'll still link your YouTube for the listeners too, because there's some cool stuff on there. Last question. What's your go-to dinner the night before a big effort?
that's a good one. I think it depends if what season it is.
Hmm.
Um, but I love just kind of simple like sweet potatoes, rice, chicken.
Yeah.
Like I can get a lot of that down
Yep.
pretty easily. And and there's so many different ways to cook it. So if you're like
Yeah.
feeling basic, like I before the Mammoth Tough this year, it was like
Hmm.
I was camping in my truck, no energy, didn't want to do it. So it was just like, dry rice and
Yep.
sweet potato and chicken. Or if you're like feeling like a boss, just season that stuff up.
Yeah.
It could actually
Nice.
taste good. Yeah.
Yep. Glycogen, top off the glycogen, and you get your proteins. It's a good one. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll circle back to your two truths and a lie. So you said your favorite ball sport is golf, that you hate seafood, and you grew up LDS. I said the lie was grew up LDS. Which one was the lie?
Yeah. You're
I
right.
was right.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah. That
wait,
means
so
I don't
you
like
you
seafood.
wait, you don't like seafood.
No.
Oh. Wait, did I say that one was a lie? I forget which one I
No,
said
you
now.
said you were right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said
Okay.
grub.
So you
Yeah.
don't like seafood. Oh man.
No. Well,
Just you're not allergic, are you?
I'm not. I don't
Okay.
like cooked seafood.
Oh, so you'll do like sushi.
I love sushi.
Yeah.
And I'll eat any seafood. It's just
Mhm.
not
Not your
my
first pick.
fave. Like
Yeah.
if I eat salmon, it's because I know it's good for me, not because I want to eat it.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I know that one. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun and yeah, such a good kind of learning experience for, like I said, myself and our listeners for the ski sport world. And we're certainly in that right now. So thank you again. Oh, where can our listeners find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So my main platform, I'm the most active in Instagram. So that's just at John Collinson. I'm on YouTube as well, which I'd like to do more on there.
Awesome.
So hopefully I'm inspiring myself right now.
Yeah.
YouTube, John Collinson. And recently I've put out some training programs as well.
Hmm.
And so I'm doing a lot more in the fitness and training world.
Nice.
And so I have some links to my training
Perfect.
programs on my Instagram,
Okay.
and those are on the Train Heroic platform. So
Perfect. And do
yeah.
you, with your training, is it like primarily for people who are like wanting to get strong for ski season, or is it any type of athlete or
So
person?
that's how it's marketed because
Hmm.
I'm a skier, but it's pretty big. There's nothing in there that's like, this is for skiers. In my
Hmm.
opinion, it's all like 90% of strength training for most sports is quite similar. So it
Awesome.
would benefit everyone, especially
Hmm.
at this one. I'm just going to plug it called the
Yeah.
Hip and Core program.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, if you're outside athletic, love doing a sport, but have a hard
Hmm.
time making time for the gym,
Mm.
the perfect program because it kind of like helps cross the T's, dot the I's,
Nice.
and gives you enough time to like pursue your sport effectively.
Yeah. 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 The hips play a huge role. Oh gosh. And the core. I mean, in any sport, cycling, running, skiing, I imagine like, yeah, it's the chain. It all
It's
transfers
the
down.
chain. Yeah, it's quite helpful, and I would say I've noticed my performance has gone up quite a lot since I've done focused more on like hips, core type mobility and strength.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Did you ever deal, I mean, I imagine with skis, you have to do probably a lot of single leg stuff, right?
Mhm.
With your, I
Yeah.
mean, it's gotta be so good for you too.
Yeah.
To
So
keep
there's
the
a
body
ton
balanced.
in I have like a season prep ski program. So there's a ton of like
Perfect.
single leg stuff there.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm a huge proponent of single leg work no matter
Yeah.
what, because it is, a key way to see you're like, oh dang, I'm so much stronger
Hmm.
this side versus that side or more
Yeah.
flexible, whatever it might be. So such a good way to like find imbalances to work on and also just helps build, I think, like really useful strength for sport.
Yeah, for sure. And are
So
these like, do you do Zoom training sessions with people who are outside of your area, or are they all in person?
they're all in person
Okay.
as of now. I'm hoping to expand to some online type
Hmm.
stuff, but I haven't yet.
Awesome. All right. Well, I do have some clients in Utah, so I will we will make sure they come your way. And
Yeah,
we'll link all that
please.
for the listeners in the show notes too. So check that out. And then yeah, thank you again for joining us. This has been so fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.